Hi to the camera.
Hey. Unfortunately, Peter is leaving us today.
So bad.
He couldn't handle the walking. That's the excuse on the youth. We made it to day 4 of our trip in Japan, and it was time to head to Kyoto. Unfortunately, Peter got called into work the night before, and so he would have to leave us for the rest of the trip, which means Derek and I were on our own. We were really going to miss Peter, but I think it was time for us to put what we had learned from Peter to the test. Luckily for us, we had a nice early start, 8 a.m. We were ready to go. We got some breakfast. We saw this amazing looking bread shop near our hotel, so we figured let's grab some to go and eat it on the Shinkansen, because as you may or may not know, it's okay to eat on the Shinkansen, but you generally shouldn't eat on the subway. So since the train ride was going to be pretty long, about 3 to 4 hours long, we figured it was going to be a good time to both get some sleep and eat our food. So of course, we checked out this entire place, and they had some amazing looking food. Peter was kind enough to take us all the way to the station so that way we could get our tickets for the Shinkansen and be on our way to Kyoto. And honestly, if he wasn't with us, we probably would have gone a little bit lost, so it was very, very helpful to have him along for this bit of the ride. As we were in line trying to get our ticket, we found out that the Shinkansen was going to be delayed due to someone jumping onto the tracks. And that delay meant that we had to take a completely different route, which was going to end up taking an 8-hour commute to Kyoto. Luckily though, we waited it out about 10 minutes and they cleared us and said, hey, you know what? The Shinkansen going from Tokyo to Kyoto will work, so we just saved a ton of time, but we freaked out for a second there. Something of note also that we didn't know beforehand is you don't actually need to reserve tickets for the Shinkansen. Generally, they have 3 cars that are non-reserved, so as long as you have your JR pass, you can just push it through the system and just take one of the seats in the non-reserved areas. Personally, I think that is the best way to do it because you save a lot of time, because the line was very long. We waited in that line for a good 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and that honestly made us miss the first couple Shinkansens, which could have honestly saved us a lot more time for the trip. You've probably also heard a lot about them becoming more strict about the luggage you take on the Shinkansen. I personally had an oversized suitcase, which meant that I was supposed to reserve. However, in the non-reserved seats, you can still put your oversized bags as long as you're quick enough to get it in the back. Generally, I had no real issue with that. There were a couple times I had to put it at my feet, but usually I didn't really have any issues whatsoever with getting my oversized luggage onto the non-reserved section. In fact, there's usually more open areas for it than in the reserved section from what I noticed. So something to keep in mind if that was a worry of yours as well. Once we settled in, it was time to eat. I personally got a few too many sandwiches and pastries, but I did feel pretty hungry and I knew it was going to be a long ride, so I figured it couldn't hurt. The red bean donut was so good, by the way, just an FYI, and all the food was really good. And then, of course, I was starting to get pretty dehydrated from these last few days, so I did pack a bunch of liquid IV. I packed enough to drink at least 1 per day, and I made it while I was on the train so that way I could get a little hydrated before we got to our next stop. Again, if you're interested in liquid IV, you can find the link for them in the description below. They really came in clutch whenever I needed it, especially for these really long walks and hikes, specifically like we did in Mount Fuji, so definitely highly recommend taking some. And while I was drinking and eating, I of course brought my phone to watch and look outside as I just enjoyed the calm, peaceful train ride to Kyoto, and the views were so nice. it to Kyoto. Finally. We were worried there for a second. Thought it was gonna be what, 7 hours?
Yeah.
So apparently you said someone jumped onto the rail?
Yeah, so on Google Maps it said someone jumped onto the rail, but then in the Shinkansen it said there was a trespasser.
Maybe that's their code word for it. Yeah. But so it said it was going to be delayed, and Google Maps was telling us, oh, well, you're going to have to go back the way you came, so back to our hotel, and then take the long way around towards like Kanazawa. So going up north, then going west, then going south. So pretty much making a square. We're doing 3 sides versus 1. So that was about to be very unfortunate versus, what was that, maybe like 2.5, 3 hour?
Yeah, 2.5 to 3, yeah.
Yeah, so luckily they fixed it right as we finished getting through the line to get the ticket. So
yeah,
definitely would have put a hamper on our plans otherwise.
You can't always trust Google Maps.
Very true. At this point, it was just time for us to take the subways as close to our hotel as possible, so that way we could leave our luggage and start exploring Kyoto. Personally, Kyoto is one of my favorite places to visit in Japan. I have so many fond memories, and I remember that with Kyoto there is quite a bit of walking involved, at least the way that I had set it up. We had planned on going to the Kiyomizu-dera Hondo, and then we were supposed to go to Kaege Incline. Although Kaege Incline at this point wasn't going to have the cherry blossoms, we figured we might as well go check it out. Then we wanted to hit up Yasaka Shrine and finish up with dinner. So we had quite a bit to do, and even though it doesn't sound like a lot, most of the walking between these locations was going to be about 40 minutes. So we had to make sure that we had plenty of time to get to each spot. Alright, so we just finished checking into our place here in Kyoto. It was down a random alley. Place was actually pretty decent looking. We didn't check our rooms because we got here too early, so it's not check-in time yet for us. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start heading out. We're gonna get some lunch real quick. If you guys saw, I ate a lot on that Shinkansen, so I'm probably not getting anything, but man, there's a lot of places around here to eat. And the nice thing about Kyoto too is it's very, for lack of a better word, kind of like congested. Like everything that is worth checking out for the most part is pretty close to one another. So that's gonna make it really good for us, especially for walking. So if you've ever been to Japan, or if you've ever heard, everyone's like, you got to get nice, like comfortable shoes to wear whenever you do come to Japan. Personally, I've brought some slip-on Adidas shoes because slipping them on and off is very nice, and then these shoes just in general are very comfortable. However, they're very worn out. So I would recommend getting some shoes, but don't get anything that's super worn out. Wear something for like maybe new shoes, wear them for a bit before you come to Japan so that you can break them in and then take them with you, because you will do a lot of walking. How many steps did we do yesterday? Like 30 something thousand? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 30 something thousand, which is like over 10 miles, I believe. So, and that was in Tokyo, where we didn't even have to walk that much. No, yesterday wasn't Tokyo, it was Mount Fuji. So that one was a bit of walking, but we actually did even more when we were in Tokyo. So just something to keep in mind. Kyoto, definitely gonna be doing a lot more walking. And lucky for us, it looks like Derek found some place to eat. You made sure to find some nice Indian food, right?
Yeah. Second time.
Second time. We've loved it so much here. It seems that Google knows our preferences now after eating at an Indian restaurant once in Japan. They're like, all right, that's all you're gonna get.
And kebabs, because we were talking about it one time.
Oh yeah, of course our phones are listening to us, you know. Both his iPhone. I'm gonna blame on the iPhone actually, you know what? Now my Android would never listen to me. Yeah. All right, let's go see what we got. This market is huge. It's like there's so many things worth trying here. You got like desserts and fish and like everything just kind of scattered throughout. You can just pick it up and eat it. It's pretty nice. And it looks like it just never, bless you. And it looks like it just never ends too.
I know.
It's a good thing it's just a straight line. Imagine if it like branched off everywhere. It'd be so cute. Oh, there you go. 700 for 3 strawberries. After wandering the market for a very long time, we decided to get some place to eat that was within the market itself. And even though I wasn't originally planning on getting any food, I started feeling a little hungry after all that walking. And so I decided to get some as well, and let me tell you, the food was great. It was especially nice after these last few days, which have been super tiring, and just walking around the market itself, and I knew I would need the energy before we headed out for the rest of our day. Not bad. $7.20 for mine and $9.20 for yours. That's pretty good, especially with tax already included and everything. Yeah. It was time for us to head to our first destination, and as we were walking, we actually ran into what would be considered one of my personal favorite anime stores in Japan. This place is called Suragaya, and I hadn't realized at the time that it was a chain, and it was just an amazing shop. It had a mixture of new products and pre-owned. And for pre-owned, let me tell you, the quality was still very, very high, and the prices were very, very cheap for the most part, which was exactly what I was looking for. I mean, the amount of stuff that I was buying at Suragaya's throughout my trip was just insane. And I was finding products for older anime as well, which is exactly what I wanted. I was mostly looking for Yu Yu Hakusho, I was looking for Digimon stuff, and this was the only store where I was really able to find those kinds of products. This Suragaya was about 3 floors, and each floor kind of specialized in its own thing, with the first floor being mostly video games, the second floor being some more like Gundam and retro games as well, and then at the top we had more figures, some plushes, and variety of anime goods. So you really get to just see a wide variety of products, and the beauty is it is tax-free if you can reach the minimum, which I believe was 5,500 yen, which is about 50 USD or so, a little bit less than that probably. I looked around this shop for a while and I noticed this Raichu plush. I assumed it would be expensive because most Pokemon things are, but when I saw that price tag, I was so shocked. It said it was only 300 yen, which was less than $3. I knew it was used, but I really couldn't find any issues with it. I looked really hard trying to see were there any scratches, were there any tears, rips, whatever, but it seemed completely fine to me. Then they had a bunch of these under 300 yen boxes, which just had a bunch of cheaper goods for various anime, and I luckily found some for Yu Yu Hakusho. I didn't end up getting anything, but I did notice a few things that I thought were interesting. Since I was going to be coming back to Kyoto in a few weeks, I figured this would be a good time just to get an idea of prices and see what kind of items they had, so that way I could compare to other places that I would end up going. Overall, I was surprised. They had a lot of the older stuff that I wanted. However, I didn't see specific things that I really, really wanted. For example, I wanted maybe Yu Yu Hakusho figures, which at this time they didn't have any. But this under 300 yen box was pretty neat because there were some cool little keychains. They had them for both Yu Yu Hakusho, Attack on Titan. They had some for Pokemon, Demon Slayer, pretty much any anime you could think of, they had one for. And it was a decent amount of goods. And depending on which location you go to, you could find a lot of great deals, just like that Raichu I just found. Yo, this store is amazing. So I just bought a Raichu plush for only 300 yen. And I guess he just automatically gave me the tax-free, because he pointed at the sign, I thought, for the tax-free.
Oh, that's why you showed your passport.
Yeah, yes. But then I was like, because when we went to Don Quixote, they made me like show the passport. They made me put in my phone number, like all these like steps to verify that I was a foreigner. But that store was really cool, and it was way cheaper than Animate, because a lot of the stuff in there was used. So definitely worth checking out. I mean, 300 yen for, which is like less than $3 for a Raichu plush, and I didn't even notice any defect with it. There was a Snorlax plush I saw too, but it didn't have a tag. So apparently if it doesn't have a tag, it's 100 yen. But that one I noticed as I was about to check out, it had a big hole in the neck, which honestly I probably could have just sewn and fixed. But yeah. In the moment, I just decided not to. So, but yeah, definitely worth checking out. After that, we continued on our way to Kiyomizu-dera. It was going to be a very long walk, but it was a nice day, so we didn't mind. Plus, Kyoto is just beautiful to walk through. It feels a little bit more traditional than Tokyo, a little bit more quiet, and again, it's just really nice to look around as you're walking. As we got closer, we could see the crowds of people. I remember the first time I came 7 years ago, it was extremely crowded, and this was no exception. There were just waves and waves of people trying to make their way up. And it is an uphill battle as well because, well, it's all uphill to get up there, and it does take quite a bit of patience to make your way up there. Today was actually, in my opinion, a lighter day. There definitely wasn't as many people as the first time I came. So I guess that's a bonus, even though it was still a lot of people. But luckily, we did make our way up there, and it was just as beautiful as I remember. This was one of my favorite places to visit in Japan the very first time I came. As you enter, there is this challenge where you can try to lift this pole with as many people as you want, and so far no one had been able to do it. Luckily, someone offered to record while Derek and I tried, and we didn't really have much hopes for lifting it, but we figured it'd be fun, you know. No one had been able to, so of course I tried doing it on my own first, which was just impossible. But then we tried doing it with Derek just to see if it would be possible, even slightly.
Ah, that hurt.
들리네. 저 안 들리는 줄 알았어. 오.
We did it!
Yeah, good work.
Thank you. On that thing though.
Oh yeah, it's like angled.
Yeah, I like pretty sure I bruised my hand trying to.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, so did I.
But it was so worth waiting for that though.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bro, we actually did it. We were so ecstatic that we actually managed to lift that. Honestly, we had no real hopes of actually lifting it. We were just kind of joking around and seeing if we could lift it just like everyone else. And then when it actually moved, we were so happy. Even the guys that we asked to record for us were super surprised. And it was fun. Honestly, I would highly recommend trying it, but do be careful because I definitely didn't use the proper technique. And it was pretty painful to do, but it is not an easy thing to move. So if you can even budget, that is impressive, and kudos to you. 100% go try it, because it was pretty fun to do. At this point, we were going to head to our next location, which was Kaege Incline. However, we were starting to get a little bit hungry, so we decided to stop at one of the restaurants we saw as we were headed down this hill.
Mamanaku.
That, in case you didn't know, that is his favorite word. Yeah. Very good word to know in Japan. Comes up a lot.
It means shortly.
Yes. Yes. When you're on the subway, you'll hear it a lot.
That's when you know the station is approaching.
Yeah,
It's actually useful.
it actually is useful. Yeah. We're joking around about it, but it actually is pretty useful. I decided to get some tonkatsu curry. I will say it wasn't the best I ever had, but considering we were in a tourist location, it made sense that it was fancy looking and the taste was just okay. So just keep that in mind. If you're trying to go for the best that you can possibly get, probably don't get it in the touristy areas like we did. But still, nonetheless, it was a great little meal to have before we continued on our journey. All right, so we just finished eating our second lunch, or first of 2-3 dinners, one or the other. But yeah, food was pretty good. Keep in mind, if you're eating with someone, they probably won't let you split the check. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Generally, what we've been doing is one person pays with credit card, and then we, like the other person will give the other person cash or PayPal them. Mostly so we can conserve our yen, just because you never know when you might end up needing the yen more. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. Otherwise, if you're just gonna pay in cash, then that's not that big of a deal. You just each give cash, so. But yeah, now we're headed over to Kaege Incline, and it is actually very cold considering it is summer-ish. It's summer, right? Or is it still spring?
Yeah, like transitioning to summer.
Yeah, and it was hot yesterday, so maybe I should find a nice tourist shop and buy a sweater. Or maybe I should hug my new right shoe. Keep me warm.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's head over to our next spot. So Derek and I were walking, right, and we see this museum. It says Kyoto Museum of Pho. At least that's what we thought, right? Like that had something to do with Vietnamese food. Turns out they were missing the last panel that says photography. So it is the Kyoto Museum of Photography.
It's like, wow, Japanese people, they're so inclusive in culture, having a museum on Vietnamese food.
Yeah, we thought it was a little interesting. And then, you know, as we were walking by, we're like, that doesn't really look like pho to me. Yeah, so, yeah, that's, yeah. Is that a doggo in the wild? Not really wild, because it has a collar. Hi, buddy.
Oh, it's a Shiba Inu, I think.
It is. Hi, buddy. It's cute. It's cute. Alright, so Derek and I just got to Kaege Incline. This place is mostly known during cherry blossom season. It's supposed to have a lot of cherry blossoms. Of course, we're out of season, but we figured we'd check it out, just see what it looked like, honestly. It's, from what I understand, I believe it's abandoned railway system, so it's pretty cool looking, actually. It looks like something I'd see in like an older anime, honestly. At At this point, Derek and I made our way to Yasaka Shrine. It was starting to get late in the day, but honestly, Kyoto looks even nicer as the sun sets. It's just so much vegetation everywhere that it looks beautiful at low sun time. As you walk out of Yasaka Shrine, you see a lot of food stalls, and it's very, very tempting. Derek got some, and he thought it was really good, but a little overpriced, as expected in a touristy area such as this. Alright, time to call it a day as far as sightseeing goes. Time to actually check into our hotel. At this point, we just spent the rest of the day checking out the city and relaxing because we had been doing a lot of walking and wanted to make sure we stayed rested up for the rest of our trip. Tomorrow we are headed to Osaka, so we wanted to make sure that we were able to wake up nice and early for it.